All right, what's up everybody? This is a kind of a different video. I'm gonna be opening some double masters soon and hopefully learn to edit so I can start posting these box opening videos for you guys on YouTube. But this one's a little different, so I'm not sure, again, with just getting some raw content in the cam before I bring it up to anybody. You can see I'm adjusting the camera. This may get cut off, sorry. What I want to do tonight, though, is something kind of interesting. I had a buddy bring in a pretty old collection of cards from the office, and I've been kind of bothering him to say, hey, I'd love to give you an assessment. I want to see what you've got. He mentioned having a lot of cards from, the classic era. I mean, look at this classic Mirage box. So you kind of get a sense of what we're going to look at today. I kind of want to just sort and chat about kind of what I've started to look at, more of going from the player collector to hopefully a collector investor type position in the game, and just looking at some different things. So today it's gonna be cool because we're just gonna look through what we have here. So hopefully while I mess with my camera, I know this is like really amateur hour level content, but yeah, we're just gonna take a look at some of the cards my buddy's got. I want to kind of sort them by set. I want to kind of see if he's got some valuables. This is probably something where I'd honestly say I'm going to sort it by set. I'm going to give him a very honest assessment of what I think his current market value is in the cards. And then I told him I'd probably make him a cash offer on what I'm personally interested in this set, and then see with the context that I can't just pay market value, like some of this investment. And what's really cool is, I will say, without giving any away personal information, even a guy who I don't think has probably played Magic since 1996, 1997, and, probably enjoyed it a long time ago. He mentioned, he was like, hey, I don't even want the expensive cards. I just want to keep most of them so I can give them to my son. And I think that's just a cool story on like the emotional power this stuff has for people. It's something that they still really treasure, even a guy who I bet hasn't really opened these boxes for years. So yeah, we'll just kind of get started. I'm gonna just do a quick set sort. I have a feeling these are probably pretty mixed. I'd say with Mirage, I'm probably expecting to see a lot of 5th edition, but you never know. I mean, in a collection like this, especially someone who hasn't been in the game for years, you just never know what you're going to find. So I figured we'd take a look. I'm going to try to keep it pretty clean for him, get these organized by set at first, and just see what we've got. So we'll kind of go through these. Looks like we got some Exodus and Stronghold commons, so you can see played up through Tempest block. Not seeing anything here, but the benefit of organizing these by set too is, one thing I do want to say is these cards look like they're mostly in pretty good condition, some light play, but you know what's going to be, oh, we even got an Urza Saga card in here, so I'm getting kind of excited. I was expecting, because he told me it was pretty much all Mirage, so I was expecting to pretty much open a box of garbage Mirage and basically look for a Lion's Eye Diamond and be like, look, you have a card that's worth something. And I mean, he and I started working together in about 2018, and at that time, a Lion's Eye Diamond was probably about 175 bucks. But as you guys know, Lion's Eye Diamond's been floating above 500 for a while now. So that's one thing we want to look for, is anything that's really got some value, and see if, I want to kind of break these down by set to also see if there's reserve lists. So I'm going to make one quick change here too. We're going to move this out of the way, just so you guys can see it. Try not to do any camera trickery. I mean, if you guys were to say it's all staged, that's fine too. Like, I literally do not have the time or inclination to stage anything. I'm just trying to make some content out of wasting too much time and money on Magic lately in my adult life. So what I want to kind of try to do is even set these up by block, so we can go and say, okay, we've got Mirage, Visions, Weatherlight will come after that, Tempest, Stronghold, Exodus, and it looks like, excitingly enough, there is an Urza Saga card in here. So who knows what we're going to find. And it looks like 5th edition. I think 6th edition is where they started to put that symbol on the outside. But we'll double check that too. So we're going to do our best job here. It's cool to just see some of these cards. Like, I remember these. I mean, this was a lot when I was pretty hype in the game, and this guy and I are pretty much the same age. So it's really cool to see. I mean, stuff like Stupor, this is an interesting card. Like, when you look at the quality of discard, and I know discard's something that kind of changed because it's like negative impact play interaction, but when you look at, and actually I'm going to adjust this light just so it's not as glary for y'all. But when you start considering like how they look at the game, they definitely didn't like discard at random. You know, Hymn to Turok is not a card that gets anywhere near standard anymore because it's just so degenerate. You can hit the 2 lands, the guy can't do anything, or you can hit both his playables and he's just choking on lands while you hit him in the face with Hypnotic Specters. Stupor is interesting because, yeah, it's sorcery speed for 3, but when you think about it, they discard a card at random and then choose and discard. That's actually a pretty powerful 2-for-1 effect. And when you hit them at random, I mean, if you hit their worst card, they have to discard something, the next second least important card in their hand. If you hit their best card, then they have to get rid of also their worst. I mean, you really lower the quality of the opponent's hand. I just always thought that was an interesting card. If you can't tell, I'm one of those people who did play the black Hymn to Turok, Hypnotic Spectre, Dark Ritual, Carnophage, you know, the deck. Yeah, this one, I'm wondering if this has got to be 5th edition with 95. I'm still learning my way around the reading the white borders that don't have symbols on them too, guys. So forgive me if you're like, boy, this guy really doesn't know what he's talking about. But I'm gonna guess since this one's 97, that one was 95. So we're just gonna dump those white borders for now, and we'll go in and do a little deeper sort in a minute. But this will just be fun to see if we see anything really exciting hop out of this. Love some of these. Like, look at that RKF Drain Life. Like, this is a card I had as a kid. It's pretty beat up. Probably got played. The beauty of sorting cards from this era too is like, this one sleeves were not mandatory. Like, I remember well into, there was a Saga block. It was like the only people I knew who even cared about sleeves were serious tournament players who were spending serious money on cards to try and go play in tournaments and were protecting their investment early. And boy, if those guys held on to what they had, and I bet a small portion of them did, well, another large portion went ahead and liquidated at some point, you know, college, girls, cars, jobs, life. That's what's interesting about the collectibles world. No one stays, well, not everyone stays a collector forever or holds on to their stuff. And even when they do, it's easy to be at a point in your life sometimes where you're like, this is all junk. Why am I holding on to this? Another really interesting card. Like, I just don't think you would see this anymore, but if enchanted creature lose play, its controller sacrifices a creature. Like, what a funky enchantment to basically be like, you play me on another creature, or you play me on the opponent's creature you can target, and then you hit it with Terror, because Terror and Dark Banishing were like the quintessential baseline removal back in the day before Murder and, what is that card? Oh, man. Anyways, you know, removal just changes so much, but when you think about this, it's a pretty steep investment, but it does give you a way to, like, remove a creature with Shroud if your opponent has 2 creatures. I mean, they can play around it, so that's usually pretty weak when your opponent can duck your strat, but that's what we're looking at. Yeah, we're going to have to sort these white bordered cards because there's 95, 95, 95, and what's interesting is look at, that's like a smaller printing on that. I wonder if it's like 4th edition and 5th, and they were both same calendar year copyright. I'll have to do my homework on that one, honestly, guys. Oh, there we go, a little white bordered basic land. Those are cool. I actually think those are going to always be like coming back around as a commodity these days. I would be interested, ooh, that's a pretty off-print Vampire Bats. I'd be interested to see if one day Wizards actually nostalgically goes back and makes a white bordered set purely for its incredibly nostalgic aesthetic value. You know, and if you're an old guy like me, you remember for years white bordered cards were just despised. They were just like, oh, it's gauche to play with white bordered cards. They're just ugly, yucky, bad cards for broke kids scoring bulk garbage and they don't know any better. You know, and with the exception of like Unlimited and Revised. Nowadays, I think it's almost niche. You know, it's fun to pop like a really funky single printing of a 7th edition weird art with a white border in your deck. I even personally really like sleeving up white bordered cards in white sleeves. You know, here's that misprint Surrender of Freet, and it just looks cool to have it in this whitish border because like it just makes it look so white and funky. It's really funky. And I've seen other games use the white border. You know, I don't know if Pokemon does it. I'm trying to think if maybe a Pokemon does. I think Flesh and Blood does. I think maybe the Final Fantasy card game had that. Okay, so as we're going through, it looks like we're just in a bunch of bulk black commons here. I'm not seeing anything that's piquing my interest yet, but as I said, we're going to try to get these laid out by set, and then I'm probably going to sit down and like run them through the reserve list. Ooh, Old School Buried Alive. That's great. That's actually a card I'll probably hit them up for. I like black, especially in Commander. I like Graveyard Recursion. I like Shenanigans. I like combos. So Buried Alive, man. What a card. Something we thought was garbage as kids. Why would you do this? And then you go years into the game and Recursion does what it does, and now it's like, oh, this is one of the better setups. Oh, Necromancy. Okay, we're getting into some stuff. Necromancy, Tombstone Stairwell. All right, we'll have to check out what the value is on those, but those are all, depending on where they're at, I mean, those are all interesting pickups. And like I told my buddy, I'm gonna make him a cash offer and say, hey, look, I'd like to buy you out of these. A lot of this I'll probably just give back to him. Man, Spinning Darkness. What a wild card, you know? This was so in vogue. Things like this, and I'm trying to remember what the red one was where you sacrifice 2 mountains. Fire Blast. That free alternate cost. Like, this effect isn't that powerful because it's relegated to creatures. It's not a game-winning effect. But removal, you can play at instant speed for no mana. And you're just exiling cards from your graveyard. I mean, it gives you a trick up your sleeve. It really is a card, you know? All right, looks like we're going to get to some basics. Looks like this maybe was a black deck at some time, but we'll just, let me clean up my piles here, guys. Bear with me. Trying to do my best to figure out how to keep as much content on camera and not kill my back and show you what's going on. So, you know, as you can tell, this is absolutely amateur hour, but if you enjoy just some jabroni looking at cards, that's what you got. Some jabroni looking at cards. Maybe that's what I'll call this channel. Card jabroni. Something like that. Anyways, we'll just keep running through these. I mean, I even love looking at these. Like, that's a great swamp. Look at that with the mist. Doesn't look particularly tropical, but it's cool. That one does. It's got kind of a bayou feel down in the bayou. These are beautiful. You know, one thing about these 5th edition, 6th edition sets, they had some pretty great land art. They really did. The art director went out of their way to get some good art in a product that otherwise, I remember was the first time where it was like, you're dumb for buying this as a kid, which hurts really bad when you're 11, obsessed with Magic, want to buy as many packs as you can, to have an older kid be like, just save up your money and buy a good card instead of buying all this garbage, and you don't really know what to do with that as a kid because you're like, I don't know what a good card is. I'm not at the card shop every day. I just save up my allowance and have no self-control. So let's keep running through. Heaven Strongholds, interesting. I'll make another little stack for that. That's just interesting. Tempest, Mirage, all right. So far, I mean, only a couple little, I don't even know if we'd call them hits, but some cards, some interesting cards. Oh, remember these guys? I wonder if he has the Spirit of the Night. That was always such a cool thing of like how this card, and what's the other one? Breath Stealer, which I think we saw one of. Oh yeah, he's right there. There's your Breath Stealer. They all brought out Spirit of the Night. Doesn't look like we're going to find Spirit of the Night in here. I honestly don't know if Spirit of the Night is reserve list or has any long-term retention and value, or if it was just something we remember back as a kid. I mean, I think a lot of contemporary powerful creature design, even something like a Chroma, I think Spirit of the Night was them finding their way to make a better big creature after the years of each Magic set. You know, there's a 6/6 and then a 7/7 and then an 8/8 and then a 9/9 and then all the way up into Mirage Block with a 12/12 Phyrexian Dreadnought. And then I think they kind of realized a giant power toughness creature with a drawback doesn't really mean much. And in modern days, we'd be like, yeah, it just dies to removal, dog, or you counter it. But things like Polar Kraken, go take a look at Leviathan or Polar Kraken and tell me if you think that's even playable now, beyond trying to prove that you can make the game work by getting around its terrible drawback to make it good, and that a 1/1 can block it. I think Leviathan has trample. Maybe Polar Kraken does too, which makes it better. I'm pretty sure the Phyrexian Dreadnought does as well. And it only costs 1, and you have to sacrifice some creatures. I remember there were some shenanigans you could get up to. I think abusing Sacrament was pretty misprint. Swamp there, you can see that bottom. Seen this trick where guys go to analyze cards to see if they're centered like that. Thought that was pretty interesting on some videos. You never know what you're going to learn on YouTube. Let's see. Abandon Hope. Choose and discard X cards. Look at target opponent's hand and choose X of those cards. That player discards. Wow. Wow. This seems like that could just be incredibly painful. Like, I'm going to draw 7, and I have 4 in hand. My opponent has 5 cards. I'm going to pay 7 mana. I'm going to just nuke their hand and grind the game to a halt and retain a ton of card advantage. It's expensive to do that, but I can also see why they're like, that's pretty degenerate, toxic play. It doesn't really make the game fun to have people just be like, you can't play Magic. Now watch me kill you with a 1/1. And slowly, while you sit there and you draw land, and I'm just basically time walking you in the most annoying way possible. I always loved this art. Like, look at that. The spittle off the tongue wag after she cut this dragon's head off is that sparkle in the air. Like, this is a beautiful piece of art. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus with it really close, because, like, just appreciate, like, look at that. That's a great piece of art. Not the best thing ever. I mean, sacrifice a creature to get a combat trick. The best thing you're going to do is sack a creature to win combat in another matchup. Maybe take something problematic off the board, but it's not too good there. Not too good, but they've moved away. I mean, you look at older cards and you can just see the game has just changed a lot. Oh, Coercion. The old school Inquisition of Kozilek. Used to cost 3 and be at sorcery speed. I think that was still playable. Diabolic Edict. That's still a good card. Boy, this lets you do some stuff. This lets you really do some stuff. Strong removal. Back in the day, that was when you packed pretty regularly, because when the game is in the early phases and you can cheaply basically let them play their 4-drop and it's the one creature they have out on the board, force them to sack it, and you drop a 2-drop aggro creature in behind it after you've leveled the playing field cheaply and quickly. They're going to be frustrated. Choking Sands, land destruction, when this just used to be a card. You know, talking about, you can see too, like, what's interesting is to look at that. Look at how much discard we've seen and how much land destruction, just things that they know are prohibitive to a positive game experience. Boy, I'm just realizing I got my work cut out for me. This is going to be quite a bit of sorting tonight. So we're going to do our best. Interesting to see what he has sleeved here too. Here's a Pegasus Charger, flying in first strike. Don't know why that's sleeved, but we'll just set it here for now so we don't have to worry about what's sleeved and isn't sleeved. Hey, Soltari Visionary. That guy's pretty good in my book. I always like shadow creatures, and this guy, if he damages a player, destroy target enchant. I mean, with shadow, that's pretty good. Purify on a stick, on a 2/2, on a bear with shadow. Hey, that's a guy. That's a guy. The OG guild mages. Back before there were guilds, there were guild mages. And they did stuff with different colors. Charging Paladin, Angelic Blessing. Boy, this is taking me back. Not really seeing anything we haven't seen before. Let's see what we got in here. Looks like there's a couple. Oh, no, they're just stuck. These are old. Oh, look at that old school Ivory Charm, though. Isn't that cool? Boy, sorry about the light, guys. It's even worse on the sleeves here. Old school Disenchant. You know what? We're just going to put all those sleeved ones together here and deal with that in a moment. Used to love this guy, Master Decoy. Man, for the middle years of Magic, this type of guy was what White Control played in Limited. You're on a budget, but you need to stay alive. This did the job. And it's got that always fun Foglio art. It's funny because as a kid, at first I liked those cards because they were so funny. And then as I started to develop a taste, I was like, boy, I don't want that goofy stuff in my game. I like the serious. You know, I want the Wicked Reward, the Fatal Blow art, the Expunge, not necessarily the goofy guys. But now it's like Foglio's art just stands out as such an interesting take on typical swords and sorcery art. Buyback. Anybody remember Buyback? Well, I guess you do. If you play Commander, you know Buyback. Yeah, some planes. Guess that was probably part of a deck at some point. Circle of Protection Shadow. It's probably the last Circle of Protection to see print. Ooh, Urza's Destiny. So we're starting to see a little more Urza's block come fleshed out. Really interested to see what this all becomes. Orb of Silence, Angelic Renewal. These are pretty good cards. I don't know if they have any value these days. Like, that's what's going to be really cool is after this, just going through and seeing what's on the reserve list, what has some sort of value from Commander, and a lot of these are cards I have in my collection too, and just need to get to and sorting, but it'll be cool to return this to this guy and say, hey man, like, just went through everything, organized it for you. Here's the ones I'm interested in. Here's everything back for you, easily accessible. Oh, look at that. Love this. Ice Age Disenchant. Like that, the detail, like the studs on the chainmail, pulling the runes off with his hand. I implore you not to forget the horrors of the past. You would have us start the Brothers' War anew. Serene Relicbane, Soldevi Heretic. So in the culture of Soldev, where I believe they were digging up all the relics from the Brothers' War, there she is heretically preaching, hey, yo, don't make enchantments. It really hurt Dominaria. These two cats, Urza and Mishra, Michael, whatever his name is, boy, they almost basically genocided us all. And, you know, at that point in the story, they had no idea what Urza had in store for them. That dude was ready to ruin Dominaria and a lot more other planes to get what he needed done. Death Ward, oh, Mangar's Equity. I was looking at this card the other night. Pretty sure it's a rare. I'd be interested to hear what the modern audience thinks about this. It has an upkeep, not great. But look at this first type line. When it comes into play, choose black or red. Not choose any color, not name a color. You're going to choose a binary choice there, black or red. For each 1 damage a creature of the chosen color deals to you or a white creature you control, Mangara's Equity deals 1 damage to that creature. This is an interesting card. I mean, it lets a 1/1 block a 5/5 and kill the 5/5. And color hosing was so interesting. Stuff like this, stuff like Warmth, was way more common back in the day. And I'll say it was always the case where your play group goes from completely casual noobs to people starting to make budget decks. And the early budget decks that are easy to make are always going to be like a burn deck or like an aggro stompy in red and green. I mean, stuff like Gazban Ogre Giant Growth, even Curd Apes if you had access to those. Fireballs and lightning bolts and things and just burning you down were an early way to get wins when people mostly are just kind of, okay, what cards did I draw? Oh, I have a 3/3 Angel. If they don't have removal, I'll try to fly. Or the really old school way a lot of new players played. Let's just keep playing creatures until we have a ton of them. And then at some point I'm going to count and say, I have 20 creatures out. You only have 15. I'm going to start attacking. And let's see if combat works out in my favor. Oh, that's a damaged one. We'll set that there. That's got a little rip on it. I'll probably just tell them, hey, this one's damaged, so you care if I throw it away. Because, more Shadow guys. Love this guy. Definitely played him in some white weenie decks back in the day. The cool thing about playing during Tempest and then playing later, making white weenie decks, once people weren't playing at that time, they didn't have Shadow, which means they just couldn't block your creatures. So, you know, this guy's great. Look at that. 2-drop, 1/1, but when he attacks, he's a 2/2. That's fine enough for me. It's a 2/2 for 2 that generally reads as unblockable. Just some other cards. Master at Arms. We'll see. So far, I'm not seeing anything that looks like a rare. It's hard to say. You know, you never know. Like, do people trade off their rares? Are the rares waiting in this box? Does he have them sleeved somewhere? Did someone come through and clean his collection out? Did he decide to take a trip to Nepal when he was 20 in college and went through his box and scrounged up and sold anything worth of value? You know, you just don't know. And, you know, you can ask. I don't know if everyone's going to be honest with you, but to me, it's just interesting to be like, let's just dig through. Let's see what we find. You know, it's like, oh man, look at that Brainwash. Not a very good card. I mean, it will slow someone down, but if they want to get through, they'll get through. But look at that art, Therese Nielsen. Look at that. Look at the detail in that. Oh, man. I've had some nights where I felt like that in the morning. I'll tell you what. Alarum. Not Alurin. Alarum. Much, much worse. Alarum, I guess. You know, like we're raising the alarum. I think that's the idea behind that piece of language, but I just don't know. Repentant Blacksmith. Man, we even used to play these back in the day. Hate against red. You basically, early Magic, you had a way to hate. Oh man, look at another color hoser in white. Prevent all damage to you or target creature from any one source. If that source is red, it'll deal damage to that source's controller. So they fire blast your creature, sack 2 mountains to deal 4. Nah, you don't deal 4, but this will deal 4 to you. This is also very dirty, you can see. Back in the day, we didn't use sleeves, kids. Like, sleeves were a rare luxury. And you can go watch, what I love to watch is go watch real, like, old tournament play. And when I say by old tournament play, go watch like Pro Tours before the year 2000. There are guys at the top table playing dual lands in Worlds that don't have their cards sleeved. It's amazing. It is amazing. And you'll go back and see it and be like, oh my God, that guy is just raw dogging a dual land on the table, shuffling up, doing a real thick riffle, just getting after it. And he doesn't have anything. Wow, Dothi Warlord. This is an interesting card. As you can see, you know, you got a couple other little shadow babies out there. This is actually pretty aggressive, especially back in the day. Suicide Black, you know, we played Carnophage. If there was probably another quality shadow creature, it might have shifted to that guy. Because the whole point of that deck was to basically not let your opponent play anything. Just keep their hand at 0, kill it if it tabled, and hit them for 2 until you threw a late game Drain Life or Corrupt. And that was a pretty effective strategy for many, many years of Magic. The game's advanced a lot. It's gotten a lot more interactive, a lot less like preparing for the inevitable tit for tat. Oh, Cadaverous Knight. This was one of the first decks I ever made where I was like, man, I've got all these 2/2s with flanking. And you know, it was back when I was a kid where I was like, regenerate is good. He doesn't die, you know? So I definitely had a Cadaverous Knight and like Burning Spear and Searing Spear Ascari deck. You know, I'm not going to tell you it was good. I'm going to say as a 9-year-old or 10-year-old, I was proud of myself for choosing 2 colors and sticking with it and putting multiples of the same card in it for some kind of consistency. Destroy all green creatures. They can't be regenerated. Wow. Just a color hoser for that. All right, let's keep going. Seen some Plague Racks. Ooh, Abyssal Gatekeeper. This was a guy I did play. If he's put in any graveyard from play, I'd really love to know how he goes into someone else's graveyard, but you know, it is what it is. Each player chooses and buries a creature he or she controls. Fascinating if you don't have any creatures and he's your only guy out there because you basically hit everybody for 1. A little bit of a play around, but you guys can see there's actually some gas to that card. Not a bad card. 2/1 flying. That's probably was limited passable in Urza's day. Back in Urza's day. Oh, Reanimate. Hey, there's a card, everybody. Sliding in there, probably looks like a common, but we all know Reanimate's got some value these days. So now we know we'll actually have some stuff to look through. We're flying through. We got another shadow creature, Dothi Marauder. That's pretty aggressive. The 3/1 for 3 with shadow. I mean, you're not going to block. Let's see. Oh, Crowakin Fetish. I remember this card. I remember learning what a fetish was because of like a kid, and I'm like, I thought a fetish was like a joke on Seinfeld. No, a fetish is also like when you're in Nom and you cut a dude's ear off to make a string of necklaces or whatever that might be. It'd probably be interesting to know more about that historically, the significance of it, but we won't address that here. That's a pretty heady topic for a channel that mostly wants to be an old guy talking about cards. Holy shit. Okay, Recurring Nightmare, just chilling. Definitely gonna put that aside because that's one I want to buy. Yeah, beautiful. Recurring Nightmare in very good condition. We'll have to give an honest reach out to him and say, hey man, you did have some. I'm excited, guys. Like, I don't have a Recurring Nightmare. I'd be interested in it. I'm not sure if it's reserved list. I'll have to check. Forgive me. I'm new on my journey of reserve list, but that almost makes me want to make a stack where I go through and start pulling some of these cards I'm interested in. But we'll try to be patient. We're gonna show you them all on film, and then we're gonna go back and do a reserve list check. Wow, that just got me excited. I can't wait to tell this guy, like, hey, dude, actually, I'm going to make you a couple $100 offer for these 9 cards. And he's going to be like, what? I'm going to be like, yeah, the rest are yours, all sorted and cleaned up. Here's what I think you have. But realistically, here's what I'd like to get from you. And I hope you and your son have a great time. I don't know. I mean, he might be like, man, if it's worth that much, I want to try to get top dollar. But I'll be like, dude, I'll just try to tell him the reality of, like, you need to know where to sell it, how to sell it, and take that time. It'll probably continue to go up. I love these old Animate Dead, man. Animate Dead is an old card that was always fairly cheap and accessible as a kid. Sick art. I mean, look at that. This little guy in the back, his hands are just 2 little muffin orbs. But this dope art. Anson Maddox, let's go. Good job. His art teacher would say, great job with using minimal brush strokes to get the anatomy of that skeleton out of there. And we pull a Recurring Nightmare. Boy, you guys can just tell my energy went up, up, up. Recurring Nightmare on its way. And, you know, normally I'll probably see what an Animate Dead goes for. I don't imagine much. I might try to just slide it in with the cards if I can be like, hey, look, man, these are what these are worth. This is what I want to pay you. To me, in my mind, that's how to make a fair thing, is to approach someone and say, look, I looked through your cards. I'm not going to pay you market value. I'm probably going to offer them. And I'll be real. I mean, I'll probably offer him around or less than what Star City would buy it for, and just tell him, look, you could post these on eBay and sell them at market, and you could do the legwork in figuring out how to ship them and dealing with the bite out on taxes and the margin. That's all good. You know, I don't own these cards. It's just a pleasure that he gave them to me to sort and look at. Look at that way miscut swamp. But what I'll probably tell him too is, but hey, look, if there's a few of these you want to get rid of and you don't care about, I will make you a legitimate offer. I'm not looking to say, hey, dude, I'll give you $50 for every card here that I think is worth something, and just not leave you in the dark. You know, I work with this person. He's a friend. He's someone I respect. It's not, you know, just like most things in life, guys, it's not about ripping someone off to get ahead. You can get ahead by being honest. And you can do right. And you can also, when you make someone a good deal, you know, the piece you go to bed with at night, knowing that you did right by someone and you made a good deal instead of ripping them off, and that they're never going to come back and be frustrated, and they're going to say, wow, this guy went through my Magic cards and he offered me this much for these cards. Sure, there might be a negative Nancy out there who's like, he offered you what? But I think, you know, at the point I'm at, if someone told me, man, this guy assessed my collection and he offered me this much for what my cards are, I'd be like, hey, that's pretty fair, because, like, the idea, I mean, you have to take the risk and do the work to get full market value. And you guys all know that. If you're out there trying to sell cards, you know, it's not just candy, corn, rain from the sky. Love this art on Carrion. That to me is that, like, super stippled, detailed comic art. I just always loved that card. And it's an interesting ability, you know? Combat Trick to make a bunch of sack outlets. Culling the Weak, another cool card. So these are both Mirage. We'll move through these. Trying to motor through while I share my opinion, guys. Zombie Mob. That's an old school card that's interesting. Each summon in your graveyard, but exile all of them. Huh. There's got to be something to that. I mean, that just does something. Gravebane Zombie. Put Gravebane Zombie on top of Owner's Library. This is literally back before the graveyard could change order. It mattered. I'm not even sure where we land on that these days. Are we still in the day and age where the order of the graveyard doesn't matter? You basically played for it as known information revealed, because there were old cards that cared about the order of the graveyard. Oh, Portal. Hey now. Oh, well, right. Of course, right when I'm like, our first Portal card is our first Urza's Legacy card. Another zombie. Wall of Corpses. Love this art on Scare Tactics too. Dito Lizzie. Look at that. Beautiful little elf. And these goblins are very large faced. And this one little squawking. There's like some Labyrinth vibes, you know? She's just like, hey, don't get close to me, gross guys. I don't know if that's fear tactics so much harassment. Carnophage. Classic. Man, this guy. What a creature. During your upkeep, pay 1 life or tap him, but this dude goes to work, man. He's a 1-drop for 2/2. You play him turn 1 with the 2 you have left. You him to Turok them. Turn 2, him to Turok them and attack. Turn 3, Hypnotic Spectre, keep attacking. Oh, a lot of people have played 3 lands and said, I made some mistakes along the way. My game's probably over. I'm still pumped with that recurring nightmare staring me in the face, guys. I know it's banned everywhere too, but it's recurring nightmare. What'll be hot is I'll keep this running. If we go through green and find survival of the fittest, I am gonna be like, yo, bro, hey, I've got some real money for you, man. You've got some cards here. But the big stuff we're looking for too is Lion's Eye Diamond. I'll have to look. I mean, I'm filming on my phone, so I don't have the reserve list right in front of me, but you know, we'll see what we pull. Maybe even a Lotus Veil from Weatherlight. I'm just trying to think of what some of the other big hits are that not only are reserve list but high profile. Oh, Spirit Shackles. Look at that. That's some classic old school cool art. You know, if you do watch this, sound off in the comments if you're one of these old geezers like me too. I mean, you know, in my late 30s now, edging ever closer to the big 4-0. But oh, Homelands, love it. Homelands, okay, we're gonna put that there. We'll see what we got. But you know, it's just interesting to think back of like, I still have such vivid memories of like all of these cards, you know, playing at the card shop, terrible decks, getting beaten by things like Goblin Hog Rider, I think is a card. Maybe I'm just confusing with the Clash, but Hog Rider, man, look at that classic Wall of Bones art. Man, that's the stuff your mom would see and be like, well, I don't know if I like you playing that game. And you're like, but I'll still get good grades, Mom. I'll be student council president. Don't worry, it's okay. And she's like, all right, as long as you stay a good boy, you can keep playing Magic with your buddies at the sleepover. And you're like, that's all I want to do. That's all I want to do. I want to sit at the coffee table and look at my bad cards and tell myself, you know what? I'm going to try to make a deck with a theme. Why don't I go make a deck with all the text from General Yarkeld from Ice Age? That's got to be good, right? All the flavor text is from the same guy, and it's just 4 colored bad cards like Arctic Fox. Man, I don't even remember this one from this cycle spawning pool. OG Manland cycle, though. So very nostalgic card. Cool to see. Sadistic Glee. This looks like Grieven Ilvec. Is that guy? Yeah, Grieven Ilvec fighting Gerard, probably on the flagship Predator. You know, Urza shows up and he's like, yo, there's this thing called the Legacy. You got to get this thing called the Weatherlight. It's this cool little boat I made. Go ride it. And then as soon as they get to Wrath, Volrath is like, I've got a way bigger, more like murked out one, and I'm coming to dunk on y'all. And the story kicks off with basically the Weatherlight crew getting dumped into the forest. I don't know if that was the Forest Envec or what that was. I know that Envec lived in there, and Eladamri, Lord of the Leaves, lived in there. Man, Doathi Slayer, this is my guy. 2/2 Shadow, attacks every turn. Of course he does. He has Shadow. He's not blocking. But that's a classic DP budget version of Carnophage. I used to run that guy left and right, up and down, 2 ways from Sunday. He was my boy. Gloom. Love these old hosers. And look at this old school. Like, this is classic Swords and Sorcery art. I forget what artist this is, but this little bauble with these multicolored butterflies appears on a few of his pieces of art. Doug Schuller. That's classic. Douglas Schuller, man. Look at that classic fantasy art. Like, that just takes you back to, like, it's the 90s. This looks very 80s. You're listening to some heavy metal, you know. That's what that was. Sanguine Guard. Look at that little funky face. Doesn't look very sanguine to me. It looks kind of like a little anime baby yelling, grafted onto, like, a corpse machine. But, you know, who am I to tell Yawgmoth he needs better aesthetics, you know. I think was Gith the creative director for Phyrexia? Who knows? I don't know what they were really trying to do. Man, some more classics. Oh, look at this guy, Sky Shroud Vampire. Look at that. When a vampire can still be a bat instead of a sexy white man or woman. It's really interesting to think about what they've done with vampires since. I mean, we've seen red and black vampires. We've been to Innistrad, where there's like a big vampire culture. We've been to Ixalan, where with how... Not to disparage, because I agree with representation. I like who Wizards is deploying on their world building for representation. I like what they do. That all being said, to think that it was only, what, 2019, 2018 when they did a set with basically conquistador vampires? you know, I think that's fascinating because I think a lot of companies just wouldn't touch that, but they're like, no, we're going to disparage them. We're going to effectively say they are trash colonizers who deplete a people and place them against, you know, mostly brown-skinned native people who had like a beautiful sort of Aztec, Mesoamerican connection to dinosaurs. Pretty bold flavor choice, but executed well, I think. And, you know, I think Ixalan, looking back, is a pretty cool block for just going with what I think they've been doing well in some world design. Taking a theme, moving it forward. Ooh, Forbid. That's another one I'm interested in. I'll definitely pick up a Forbid. I don't know what it's worth, but that's a card I play in Commander. And that's what's fun about looking through old cards like this. Just some treasures, man. Just some treasures. Mirazel. That seems pretty bad. But Forbid, Recurring Nightmare, we're interested. Oh, Teferi's Drake. Look at that. Almost a full play set. 3/2 phasing for 3. Man, phasing. What a gimmick. Phasing is one of those things where you're like, these are powerful, but they have a drawback. And then you play it and you're like, this isn't a drawback. This is me handing my opponent the game. Like, Island Home. Keyworded. Too. It has reminder text, but keyworded. Segovian Leviathan. Used to like this card, mostly because it said Leviathan, and Landwalk was good when you were a kid who's bad, because then you're like, I don't have to think, it gets through. Don. There it is. Keyworded with Island Home, so that must be 5th edition. Oh, Mist Dragon. These are rares from Mirage. Flying. Loses flying, I guess, to get around like things like Hurricane, which was actually pretty common removal. They're kind of beat up, and 6 for a 4/4. What's interesting when you look at this card, it doesn't have flying, but you can pay 0 and give it flying. You can also pay 0 and lose flying, and you can pay 5 to phase it out and keep it alive. What's even crazier, though, is like, think about the modern level of the game. This just lets you get infinite instant speed reactions and abilities, like engaging a creature ability. There's probably something messed up with this. You can see this one, wow, beat to hell and back. This one's in pretty good condition still, especially for an old Mist Dragon. I don't know if those are worth anything these days, but like I said, we'll be taking a look. Oh, Ephemeron. There's another Stronghold rare. Some of the few rares. I mean, there's probably some other rares sprinkled in here, but this is the first set that had the colored markings. Ephemeron's, from what I recall, pretty bad. Don't care about it much. It's no Recurring Nightmare, y'all. And some more basic lands. Trying to turn and burn. I'll probably cut this and make this a separate video. I'm just realizing now how long this is going to take. So, you know, if you watch both of these in succession, you'll probably see me make a cut and say, hey guys, I'm going to move this off the table, do a little homework, because I don't know if I can stand up and just sort these cards for this long. Again, nearing 40. The back ain't what it used to be. Ooh, and I messed up. These should be Tempest cards. Yeah, that old school Power Sync, Time Ebb. Some more Mirage. That Sandbar Crocodile. These were all cards I played with. Creature Bond. Abduction. I believe that's a rare. Oh, Mystic Veil. I used to play this. Enchanted creature basically gets Shroud. You may choose to play Mystic Veil as an instant if you do bury it at the end of the turn. There's some flexibility with that. Hey, it's an enchantment that gives it Shroud, but you can also just play it as an instant to give it Shroud. Like, Mystic Veil reprint? I think Commander would play this card. Okay, we're almost through. So the 2 clear holders will be done here. I'll probably take a sit, do a sort, pull out anything that I'm really interested in, make an assessment there, and then I'll see if I got the energy to dig that big box. But thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I mean, it was exciting. You got to see me just pull a Recurring Nightmare out of nowhere. So that was pretty cool, I will say. Pretty cool. Pretty excited about that. You know, and that's why I do this. I told the guy, I was like, hey man, I know you got these cards. I'd love to give them an assessment. I'd love to sort them, let you know what you have. And if I see stuff I'm interested in, I legitimately want to make you a cash offer. I love this card back in the day. It's such a grief card, but as a new player, waiting for my opponent to play their favorite creature like a Lurgoyf and then put this on it and be like, sure, you can pay for it, but it's just going to get so prohibitive that eventually it has to die, and that's on you. I guess I was a griefer. What's the term for a spike who's still really bad at the game and not playing the meta, but just wants to like hurt their opponent? They don't really play for the joy of themselves. I guess just a griefer. And you know, I found joy in griefing my friends. I'm interested to see with some of this Urza Saga sprinkled in here. I mean, you guys can see some of these old sets. I mean, there's the potential in here. Who knows? Lion's Eye Diamond? Gaia's Cradle? Are those in here? Because, I mean, if they are, I'll probably take this as an opportunity to make him a legitimate cash offer and try to get myself into a Gaia's Cradle. If it shows up, we'll see. I might be really ambitious, and honestly, Gaia's Cradle was always worth some money. You never know at what point the guy played when he was 10, and then when he's 13, his buddy's like, I'll give you $15 for it. And he's like, sick. Magic's lame anyways. I'm into girls and skateboards now. You know, like, who knows? Or his homie just takes it from him. Or just says, hey, dude, do you even play Magic anymore? I just want this one card. It's just a dumb land. Like, you know, that's part of the interesting game. Always love this memory lapse art. Very cool. Very cool. I think I have a Homeland stack somewhere, don't I? Yeah, Cemetery Gate. Impressive to see that he got in late enough to not have a lot of garbage Homelands. Oh, Capsize. That's a great card. It's one we've always come to know, love, and respect. I don't know if Capsize has any market value these days, but it's a powerful card. I remember playing it in Pauper on MTGO and just being able to lock up games. What was that? The Cloud Post deck? Oh, we've got some cool stuff here too. White bordered Brainstorms. They're not worth anything, but they sure look cool. I mean, they're probably worth a little bit. 5 cents, 30 cents. Mystical Tutor. Hey, we're banging now. Look at that. Misty. Let's go. Let's go. That's just an uncommon too, y'all. That's what's wild. That first cycle of tutors, uncommons in Mirage. You have enough Mirage? You know, that's one thing. If this guy does have just a box that's full of Mirage, we might pull some tutors out of there too. So we'll probably make a separate video on just like, hey, I'm ripping through this dude's Mirage box. Man, Ray of Command was a card I used to play a lot as a little kid. Boomerang, Ray of Command. Man, these are some classics. This guy, I'm just going to dab him up for just what he has and be like, man, you got some keepers. Reality Ripple. Not a good card, but that art is iconic and burned into my young mind. Am I doing this right? No, I'm not. Look at me. You guys can just see. Once you get old, start talking a lot, you're just throwing cards in the wrong stack. Just keeping our eyes on these white cards. Haven't seen anything yet. We'll go back for Shadow. We'll go back and just double check all of these. Like I said, we just want to make sure we don't lose anything that might be worth it, because the big thing I want to do is look through here, reserve list cards, real cards that are investor collector, and just take an opportunity to say, hey man, like, I appreciate what you have here. You can probably get some more money from it, but if you just want to hook up your boy, here's what I want to offer you. And again, like I said, I want to give him a fair price. I'm not, you're not going to go to bed at night being like, man, I ripped that guy off today. You know, maybe in the short term, but in the long term, is that what you really want to say? It's like, boy, I got mine by screwing somebody, by just taking advantage of someone without them knowing. Yeah, you want to be the guy who's like, I know it, I appreciate it, I respect it. And you kind of look at this, I'd say, man, love that art. Quentin Hoover, yeah, look at that beautiful Quentin Hoover art. You want to be able to respect yourself as a businessman, I think, at the end of the day, and say, hey, I did this legitimately, I did this the right way, and Man, Argivian Restoration? I gotta look if that's... I mean, that seems incredibly powerful. Put target artifact card from your graveyard into play. Like, graveyard recursion on an artifact? There's something to that. I'm gonna have to... That's one we're gonna look into, everybody. What I'll probably do is I'll probably sort this, go through, and then make just a quick separate video to go as like the follow-up. And that way, if you want to watch this, you can. I don't know if it's ASMR for you or just chilling on a Friday night after a long week of work. Oh, Ophidian. That's pretty good card. I'm impressed he has these all stacked up. That was relevant back in the day. But, you know, I'll probably make a separate video, say, hey, I did a quick sort. Here's what I'm interested in. Here's just a quick tally on what we actually found and what was cool. And tack that on, just so you guys can see. I mean, I think that's part of the interesting process for me as someone who doesn't really play the game much anymore. I'll occasionally pop a game off on Arena. All my boys are as old as me. A lot of them have wives and kids. I'm not really the one to, like, with my work schedule, make it down to the shop for a game after work anymore. It's just not really conducive to my busy adult schedule. But when I have spare time, this is what I enjoy with the game. It's just this big nostalgia trip, you know, doing some cool stuff. Sook Out of Firewalker, another really cool art. What a cool card. Floodgate, Teferi's Imp, Dream Fighter. Dream Fighter, and it feels so good. Man, but a Mystical Tutor and a Recurring Nightmare? Hey, now. Like, I'm already like, this is totally worth it. And that, you know, Guy's Cradle has me a little nervous because I'm going to need to go hit the bank or really move a couple things around to put the Venmo. But I still will probably try to get it from him. And who knows what other random, you know, you never know. Is this the guy who's like uncle gave him one dual land and it's beat up, but he had it and he never got rid of it, didn't really know what it was and has no idea what the market's done with it since? You know what I mean? Like, or are we just seeing the couple rares that didn't get picked off in a previous scouring through to make some extra money for college or a skateboard or whatever? You know, I'm just trying to think about it from my point of view of like what happened to me when I was a kid. So we will see. There's so much cool stuff in here, though. A bunch of classic merfolk. I mean, fish were like classic legacy deck from back in the day. Not seeing anything too crazy yet, though. I mean, Recurring Nightmare is by far the hottest hit we've seen so far. And as we round out this box, that might probably end it there. Like I said, look out for a quick follow-up of me saying, hey, I've done a sort. Here's what's on the reserve list. Here's what I'm buying from this. But otherwise, guys, there we are. Fun little trip down memory lane, just sorting an old couple plastic holders. You know, even these are pretty classic. And yeah, I'm going to cut it there, but look out for a follow-up where I kind of pull what I want and what I'm interested in. And I'll probably talk about what I'm interested in paying for it, and if it's reserve list or not. I'll probably just do a quick layout with that. And then, yeah, my plan is to box all these up nice and organized for him, let him know what he's got, and then I'll probably shoot another video. Depends on how long this takes tonight, because this is about an hour, if I get to that Mirage box. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you did, leave any comments below. Let me know I'm a goof, what you don't like, all the good cards in here I missed, that I don't know what I'm doing, or any other thoughts you have. And take it easy. Peace, y'all.